It began with a sealed document delivered before dawn. A document so extraordinary that even senior palace aides reportedly questioned whether they had read it correctly. Within hours, whispers raced through royal corridors that King Charles had taken an unprecedented step. The name at the center of the proclamation was Catherine, and the title attached to it threatened to reshape the future of the monarchy itself. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The morning had barely begun when Buckingham Palace was pulled into a silence sharper than any public statement. According to palace whispers, an emergency meeting was called with unusual speed, gathering senior advisors, constitutional voices, and trusted royal officials under strict orders that nothing was to leave the room. The document at the center of it all was said to carry King Charles's authority, but its meaning was far heavier than ink on royal paper. It suggested that Catherine, long seen as steady, careful, and deeply loyal to the crown, was being placed at the heart of a temporary royal arrangement unlike anything the public had expected. Reports suggest Catherine was summoned privately, not through routine channels, but with the urgency usually reserved for moments when the monarchy feels history pressing against its doors. William, insiders claim, was informed only moments before the wider machinery of the palace began to move, leaving even those closest to the line of succession aware that something larger than ceremony was unfolding. Staff were reportedly instructed to remain silent, phones were watched, questions were avoided, and every unanswered call only made the rumors louder. Was this about Charles's health? Was it about the future of royal duties? Or was it about protecting the crown from uncertainty before uncertainty could become crisis? By midday, speculation had already begun to circle through media offices and royal circles, yet the palace offered no clear denial, no comforting explanation, and no attempt to soften the shock. That silence became its own confirmation, because behind the calm language of duty and continuity, there was a deeper truth taking shape. Catherine was no longer just preparing for the future, she was being pulled toward it. But as the details of the proclamation slowly emerged, it became clear this was not merely about a title, it was about who would safeguard the crown during one of its most uncertain chapters. For months, the palace had projected stability, yet behind carefully crafted appearances, insiders suggest difficult conversations were taking place about the monarchy's future. The emergency proclamation did not appear out of nowhere. It was reportedly the result of concerns that had been quietly building for far longer than the loquaciously public realized. Behind that calm public face, there was said to be a growing fear that the crown could not afford confusion, not now, not while every duty, every absence, and every carefully chosen word was being studied for meaning. Reports suggest senior constitutional advisors had been quietly drawn into confidential discussions, not to create drama, but to answer a chilling question: who could carry the weight of royal authority if the monarchy suddenly needed a steady hand? King Charles, already facing one of the most demanding periods of his reign, was reportedly searching for a way to protect the institution before uncertainty reached the public stage. And in those private talks, Catherine's name kept returning with quiet force. She was not loud, she was not reckless. She had spent years building trust through restraint, discipline, and a refusal to turn royal life into personal theater. That made her powerful in a different way. As William and Catherine's workload expanded, observers began to notice how often they were asked to represent not just the family, but the future itself. Their presence became a signal of order at a time when the monarchy needed calm more than celebration. Yet inside the palace, not everyone agreed on the path forward. Some courtiers reportedly feared that any temporary transfer of authority could spark headlines the palace could not control. Others believed silence was the greater danger, because a monarchy without a clear guardian would invite speculation, pressure, and internal rivalry. Historical precedents were examined, old constitutional paths were reportedly studied, and every option seemed to carry risk. But one truth became harder to ignore. Catherine had become one of the few figures capable of reassuring both the public and the institution. Her strength was not in demanding power, but in seeming almost reluctant to accept it. And that, insiders suggest, was exactly why the proclamation carried her name. It was not a reward. It was a burden placed on someone trusted to hold the line when the crown felt exposed. The palace could continue pretending this was only careful planning. But the urgency behind closed doors told another story. Something had shifted. Someone had to stand between tradition and uncertainty. Yet the deeper investigators looked into the decision, the more they discovered that Catherine's rise to this moment had been years in the making. The question echoed across Britain almost immediately. Why Catherine? Why would a future queen be elevated in such dramatic fashion before William himself ascended the throne? The answer, according to palace observers, lies in a decade-long transformation that quietly changed how the monarchy viewed her role. Catherine did not arrive at this moment through force, noise, or ambition. She arrived through patience. For years, she stood under the weight of royal judgment, learning every rule, every silence, every painful lesson that comes with marrying into an institution older than any one person inside it. At first, she was watched as an outsider, measured against history, questioned by critics, and expected to prove herself without ever appearing desperate to do so. But slowly, the story changed. Her restraint became strength. Her loyalty became power. Her calm became a shield for a family often shaken by scandal, grief, and private division. Palace observers suggest that senior figures began to see Catherine not simply as William's wife, but as one of the monarchy's most reliable guardians. Her involvement in major royal initiatives deepened. Her public approval remained remarkably strong, and her partnership with William became one of the few anchors the palace could count on during difficult years. When pressure grew, she did not turn the struggle into spectacle. When headlines became cruel, she did not answer with bitterness. That discipline mattered. It reminded many of royal women from earlier generations, who understood that survival inside the crown often depends on endurance, not applause. And yet Catherine's rise carried a quiet sadness too, because every step toward influence came with heavier sacrifice. More duty meant less privacy. More trust meant more pressure. More admiration meant more eyes waiting for one mistake. Still, insiders claim that when discussions turned toward continuity, her name carried unusual weight. She represented steadiness at a time when the palace feared drift. She represented dignity at a time when royal drama had become a public obsession. She represented the future without openly challenging the present. That was the delicate power Catherine held. She could stand close to authority without seeming to chase it. And perhaps that is why King Charles's reported proclamation felt so explosive. It did not create Catherine's importance. It exposed it. For those who had watched her journey from nervous newcomer to trusted senior royal, the decision may have seemed like the natural result of years of discipline. But for others, it was a warning. Because once Catherine was named in such a historic way, every old rivalry, every private fear, and every hidden tension inside the royal household suddenly had a new center of gravity. But while many celebrated Catherine's growing influence, others inside royal circles reportedly viewed the proclamation with far less enthusiasm. No major royal decision occurs without consequences. And if reports are accurate, the emergency proclamation sent shockwaves through royal households, private offices, and long-standing alliances that had spent years competing for influence behind palace doors. What had begun as a sealed matter of continuity quickly became a silent test of loyalty. Courtiers who had spent years understanding the hidden rhythm of royal power were reportedly stunned by the speed of the decision, because this was not a slow adjustment wrapped in ceremony. It was sudden, it was sharp, and it carried the unmistakable message that the palace was preparing for a future it could no longer delay. Inside different royal offices, questions reportedly began moving faster than answers. What authority would Catherine actually hold? Would her role remain symbolic, or would it touch the deeper machinery of royal duty? Who would advise her? Who would report to her? And perhaps most dangerously, who would lose influence because of her rise? Supporters saw the move as practical, even necessary. A calm step taken before uncertainty could become public instability. They argued that Catherine had earned the trust placed in her, not through drama, but through years of duty when the monarchy needed dependable faces. But critics whispered that the proclamation was too bold, too unusual, too politically sensitive, to be treated as a simple safeguard. Some feared it would blur lines that the institution had long protected. Others worried it would create new pressure around William, Charles, and the delicate balance of authority inside the family. Media commentators fueled the fire, turning every silence into a signal, and every palace refusal into another reason to speculate. Various royal households reportedly sought clarification, not simply because they wanted information, but because they understood what power really means inside monarchy. Power is access. Power is timing. Power is who enters the room first, and whose advice is taken seriously when the doors close. And Catherine's name on that proclamation appeared to rearrange all of it. The deeper tension was not just constitutional, it was personal. Those who had quietly built their standing around older expectations now faced the possibility that the center of gravity had shifted toward the next generation sooner than expected. The palace tried to maintain discipline, but the old calm was gone. Beneath the formal language of duty, a private storm had started. And at the heart of that storm stood a woman many admired, some feared, and others now had no choice but to acknowledge. As reactions intensified, attention turned toward the man who would be most affected by Catherine's mired. As new responsibilities, Prince William himself. If Catherine's elevation marked a historic moment, it also highlighted another remarkable story, unfolding behind the scenes. This was not simply Catherine's achievement. It was a reflection of a partnership that had spent years preparing for challenges few could fully anticipate. William reportedly understood the weight of the decision before anyone else could measure it, because Catherine's new responsibility did not stand apart from him. It reached directly into the future they had been building together, step by careful step, through public pressure, private strain, and years of silent expectation. According to palace observers, William offered his full support, not as a prince stepping aside, but as a husband and heir, recognizing that the strength of the monarchy may now depend on shared duty rather than solitary command. That support mattered. It sent a message through the institution that Catherine's rise was not a challenge to his position, but an extension of the trust they had earned as a pair. Their partnership had already become central to the monarchy's survival story. Steady when others were unpredictable, composed when the headlines turned cruel, and disciplined when the family needed unity more than emotion. Yet this moment carried a cost. Catherine's new role meant heavier pressure on both of them, because every decision, every appearance, and every silence would now be studied as a sign of what Britain's next chapter might become. Public confidence grew around the image of unity they represented, but behind that admiration was an unforgiving truth. Symbols of stability are rarely allowed to be fragile. They are expected to carry the nation's worries without showing the wounds. That is why comparisons to earlier royal power couples began to rise, not because William and Catherine were copying the past, but because the palace seemed to be turning toward a familiar formula in times of danger, two figures standing together when one, alone, might not be enough. Supporters saw in them a kind of calm promise, a future monarchy rooted in discipline, family, and service. Critics, however, wondered whether too much expectation was being placed on shoulders already tested by years of scrutiny. But William's reported acceptance changed the mood. It made the proclamation feel less like a palace shock and more like a controlled shift toward continuity. Together, they became the answer to the question the palace feared most. Who could steady the crown if the ground beneath it began to move? And in that answer, Britain saw more than a title. It saw a partnership being asked to become a shield. Yet the greatest significance of the proclamation would not be measured by headlines or palace reactions. It would be measured by what it meant for Britain's future. Across the country, people searched for answers. Was this merely a temporary precaution? Or was Britain witnessing the first visible sign of a historic transition that would shape the monarchy for decades to come. The proclamation had moved beyond palace corridors now. It had entered homes, newspapers, television panels, and private conversations where people tried to understand what Catherine's sudden elevation truly meant. Some saw it as a calm act of planning, a responsible step taken by a monarch determined to protect continuity before uncertainty could shake public confidence. Others sensed something more dramatic beneath the surface, as if the palace had quietly admitted that the old order was no longer strong enough to stand without reinforcement. Constitutional experts began weighing every possible implication, careful with their words, yet unable to ignore how unusual the moment felt. If Catherine's role was temporary, how long would it last? If it was symbolic, why had it caused such urgency? And if it carried real authority, what did that reveal about the future being prepared behind closed doors? The public fascination grew because Catherine had become more than a royal figure in this story. She had become the focus of a national question: who represents stability when the monarchy itself appears to be entering a more fragile age? International attention followed quickly, with commentators abroad watching Britain's royal system with renewed curiosity, asking whether this was a practical safeguard or the first tremor of a coming shift. At the same time, scrutiny around succession planning intensified. Every appearance by William and Catherine, every decision from Buckingham Palace, every carefully worded statement seemed to carry hidden meaning. Supporters argued that Catherine's presence reassured the nation because she represented calm, discipline, and continuity. But speculation still grew in the silence, and silence has always been dangerous inside royal history. It allows whispers to become theories, theories to become fears, and fears to become pressure. That was the tension now surrounding the proclamation. It may have been designed to steady the crown, but it also forced Britain to look directly at the Britain, question the palace had tried to manage quietly: what comes next? And once that question was spoken aloud, it could not be placed back behind palace doors. But even as experts debated constitutional details, the symbolic meaning of the proclamation carried a deeper message that could not be ignored. Titles may be written on paper, but history judges them through action. The true significance of the proclamation was not the words themselves. It was the immense responsibility they appeared to place upon Catherine's shoulders during one of the most sensitive periods in modern royal history. To the public, the title may have sounded grand, almost untouchable, but inside the royal world, grandeur is never free. Every honor carries a hidden burden. Every elevation demands sacrifice. And for Catherine, this moment reportedly marked the crossing of a line she had spent years approaching with patience, caution, and quiet strength. She was no longer being discussed only as the future queen beside William. She was being framed as a guardian of the crown's present stability, a figure trusted to represent the monarchy's calm when the institution itself seemed surrounded by questions. That symbolic weight was enormous. Royal history has often turned on women who understood that influence does not always announce itself loudly. It can live in discipline, in discretion, in the ability to hold the nation's trust when others are fighting for attention. Catherine's reputation for duty made her powerful, but it also made the pressure around her almost unforgiving. The more people believed she could steady the monarchy, the more they expected her never to falter. Public expectations grew with every discussion of the proclamation, and suddenly, every part of her role seemed heavier than before. Supporters saw her as a symbol of continuity, someone who could carry the dignity of tradition into a future filled with uncertainty. Yet beneath that praise was a harsher truth. The crown does not simply lift people up, it tests them. It asks for silence when emotion wants to speak. It asks for loyalty when private life is strained. It asks for strength, even when the person carrying it has already given more than the world can deign. That is why the proclamation felt so dramatic. It placed Catherine inside a legacy conversation usually reserved for monarchs, heirs, and moments of national turning. The palace needed stability. The public wanted trust. The institution required someone who could make duty look steady, even while pressure built behind closed doors. And Catherine, by reputation and by years of careful service, had become that figure. But with that trust came danger, because once a person becomes a symbol, every opponent, every critic, and every uncertain ally begins to understand their importance. The proclamation may have honored Catherine, but it also exposed her to a new level of scrutiny, expectation, and palace tension. And as the palace entered a new and uncertain chapter, one final question remained unanswered. History rarely announces itself in advance. More often, it arrives quietly in a sealed letter, a private meeting, or a decision made behind closed doors. Yet years later, people look back and realize they were witnessing the start of something far greater than they understood at the time. That was the weight now surrounding the emergency proclamation. What first appeared to be a private act of royal planning had become a defining signal about where the monarchy might be heading and who would be trusted to carry it there. Catherine's name on that document did more than elevate her role. It placed her inside the central story of the crown's next chapter, beside William, at a moment when Britain was searching for stability, reassurance, and a sense that the institution could still adapt without losing its soul. King Charles's reported decision may one day be remembered as cautious, even temporary, but it may also be seen as the moment he acknowledged what many had already begun to believe. The future of the monarchy was no longer waiting at a distance. It was already forming around William and Catherine. Their rise did not erase tradition. It tested whether tradition could survive by choosing the right guardians before the crisis became too large to control. And that is what made the proclamation so powerful. It balanced old duty with new pressure, ancient ceremony with modern fear, and public hope with private uncertainty. For Catherine, the honor carried the force of history, but also the loneliness of expectation. For William, it confirmed that the future he had been born into was moving closer, faster, and with fewer guarantees than anyone expected. For the palace, it became a message that continuity would not be left to chance. Still, one mystery remained. Would this be remembered as a temporary safeguard during a fragile season, or as the first quiet step into a new royal era? The answer may not come quickly. It may unfold through decisions, appearances, silences, and sacrifices still hidden from public view. But the meaning is already difficult to ignore. The crown had shifted. Catherine had stepped closer to the center. William stood beside her, and Britain, watching carefully, sensed that history had moved without warning. Because whether this proclamation proves temporary or transformational, one thing is certain: the future of the monarchy may have changed the moment Catherine's name appeared on that extraordinary document. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.